What if the most dangerous things in America weren't locked away in a lab, but were growing in your neighbor's yard? What if the beautiful trees lining your street were once celebrated by the government, only to become an ecological nightmare? Around us, in plain sight, are plants with dark secrets and forgotten histories. Stories of deadly deceptions, good intentions gone horribly wrong, and poisons that look like treats. Today, we're uncovering 15 of these forbidden fruits and forgotten plants. We'll travel from the backyards of suburbia to the front lines of a war against our own food supply. And we'll even find an innocent-looking apple that can kill with a single bite. This is a journey into the garden's forbidden secrets. The fruit that rewrites your tongue. What if you could eat a fruit that made lemons taste like sweet lemonade, with no sugar needed? It sounds like something from a fantasy, but for a strange little berry from West Africa, it's a reality. This is the miracle fruit. And its effect is so bizarre that it made authorities nervous. When eaten, a protein called miraculin binds to your taste buds, temporarily rewriting your sense of taste. For up to an hour, anything sour becomes intensely sweet. While it isn't toxic or invasive, the Food and Drug Administration restricted its use in commercial foods. The concern was not about safety, but deception. Officials worried this taste-altering magic could be used to mask spoiled ingredients or disguise inferior products, fooling the public. So, this natural wonder, a fruit that could have revolutionized how we taste the world, was relegated to a novelty item. It remains a piece of forbidden magic, a flavor-bending trick of nature deemed too strange for the mainstream. The berry that betrayed the pines. There was a time when the sharp, sweet flavor of black currants filled American kitchens. Jams, jellies, and cordials were a staple, their deep purple hue a common sight in pantries before this humbled berry was declared an enemy of the state. In the early 1900s, it wasn't the fruit itself that caused the trouble, but what it carried. Black currants were found to be a host for white pine blister rust, a devastating fungal disease that threatened to wipe out America's white pine timber industry. At a time when the nation was expanding, built from the wood of these forests, the threat was taken seriously. The federal government launched an aggressive eradication program, and growing black currants became illegal across much of the country. Today, while some states have begun to relax the ban as disease-resistant varieties emerge, the black currant has never regained its place in the American garden. It remains a ghost, a forgotten flavor sacrificed to protect an empire of trees. The scapegoat of the wheat fields. It had attractive red berries, made a fine jam, and looked lovely in the garden. But in the early 20th century, the common barberry was accused of treason against America's breadbasket. In a time when wheat was the lifeblood of the nation, a devastating fungal disease called wheat stem rust threatened to wipe out the harvest. Scientists discovered that the rust couldn't complete its life cycle on wheat alone. It needed an accomplice, an alternate host, where it could survive the winter and mutate into new, more virulent strains. That accomplice was the unassuming barberry bush. The plant didn't cause the disease, but it gave shelter to the enemy. And so, the federal government launched an aggressive campaign to eradicate it. A once popular ornamental shrub was declared a public nuisance, ripped out of gardens and hedgerows across the country. The common barberry became a scapegoat, a casualty in the high-stakes war to protect the nation's food supply. The tree they begged us to plant. Decades ago, the government had the perfect tree for your backyard. It was beautiful, tough, and they even gave it away for free. That tree was the calorie pear, and it became an ecological nightmare. With its clouds of white spring blossoms and its ability to grow almost anywhere, it was promoted by the United States Department of Agriculture as the ideal ornamental tree for booming American suburbs. And for a while, it was. But the calorie pear had an aggressive secret. Its small, hard fruits were eaten by birds, which spread its seeds far beyond the confines of backyard fences. The trees escaped, forming dense, thorny thickets that choked out native plants. Think about the ornamental trees lining your own street. Could one of them be the next big mistake? In a stunning reversal, the very same departments that once championed this tree are now spending millions to destroy it. The government's thorny fence. Before barbed wire was cheap, farmers needed a way to contain their livestock. The government offered a solution, a beautiful, fast-growing living fence. They called it the multiflora rose, and soon, it fenced in the entire countryside. With its clusters of small white flowers and bright red rose hips, it was actively promoted by federal agencies as an ideal way to create natural barriers for livestock and prevent erosion along highways. It seemed like a perfect, old-fashioned solution. But the living fence could not be contained. Birds feasted on the hundreds of thousands of rose hips each plant produced, spreading seeds that can remain viable in the soil for up to 20 years. The multiflora rose escaped, forming thorny, impenetrable thickets that rendered entire pastures useless and blocked access to streams. The very plant meant to bring order to the landscape instead ran wild, a thorny testament that some solutions create problems far bigger than the ones they were meant to solve. The delicious thicket. Ask anyone in the Pacific Northwest about Himalayan blackberries, and you'll hear two things. They're the best berries you'll ever taste, and they're a monster that can swallow entire fields. These plants produce some of the largest, juiciest blackberries imaginable, far bigger and sweeter than their native cousins. But their deliciousness is part of the problem. Birds feast on the fruit and spread the seeds everywhere, giving rise to an unstoppable invasion. In Oregon and Washington, these plants create impenetrable thickets up to 15 feet tall, with thorny canes as thick as a person's wrist. These blackberry jungles have swallowed abandoned cars and crept over forgotten fences, with thorns strong enough to puncture tractor tires. The plant, which actually came from Armenia, not the Himalayas, grows with such vigor that it's nearly impossible to remove once established. It's a perfect, delicious trap, a fruit so good you can't resist it, and a plant so aggressive you can't possibly control it. The sweet, spreading stranger. It tastes like a mix of cranberry and pomegranate, and it's packed with nutrients. So why is autumn olive, a surprisingly delicious berry, now considered one of America's most wanted plants? This invasive shrub was first introduced from Asia with the best of intentions, planted for erosion control and to provide habitat for wildlife. But the stranger we invited in quickly made itself at home, and then it took over. Each plant can produce up to 200,000 berries a year, which are eagerly eaten and spread by birds. But its true power lies beneath the surface. Autumn olive can fix nitrogen in the soil, allowing it to thrive where native plants struggle. In doing so, it fundamentally alters the chemistry of the earth around it, creating hostile ground for the local flora. Its deliciousness is a paradox, a sweet disguise for one of the country's most problematic invasive species, a reminder that not all that tastes good is good for the land. The thirsty tree of the West. In the arid West, where every drop of water is precious, an unassuming tree arrived as a friend. But the Russian olive had a secret, an unquenchable thirst that threatened to drink the rivers dry. Once promoted for windbreaks and wildlife habitat, this silvery tree was planted across states like Colorado and Utah. It thrived, but at a terrible cost. The Russian olive is an extraordinarily thirsty tree, consuming up to 3 times more water than the native plants it displaces. It has invaded entire river systems, its deep roots tapping directly into the water table, lowering it for everyone and everything else. In regions constantly battling drought, this aggressive water consumption has devastating consequences, impacting agriculture, towns, and the delicate native ecosystems that depend on that same water. Its silvery fruits are spread by birds, allowing it to colonize new areas with alarming speed. It became a living monument to the law of the desert. Water is life, and anything that takes more than its share becomes an enemy. The shepherd's poison gourd. In the drylands of the West, a tiny melon that looks like a miniature watermelon dots the landscape. But this is the paddy melon, and for ranchers, it's a deadly threat in a cute disguise. It is a relative of both the watermelon and the cucumber, but it holds a bitter secret. The fruit contains intensely toxic compounds that can be fatal to the sheep and cattle that roam these arid lands. What makes it particularly dangerous is its resilience. During a drought, when other vegetation withers and dies, the paddy melon continues to thrive, its green vines and tempting little fruits becoming some of the only fresh forage available. To a hungry animal, it looks like salvation. In reality, it is a poison. Because it poses such a direct threat to the ranching industry, a cornerstone of the Western economy, this deceptively charming little melon is banned in several states. It is a stark reminder that in the unforgiving landscape of the desert, appearances can be fatal. The bird's laxative berry. A good hedge was once a sign of a well-kept home. The buckthorn, with its dark berries and dense foliage, seemed perfect for the job. But this plant had a secret weapon for spreading itself: a powerful laxative. This European import was once a popular choice for creating neat property lines and hedgerows across the northern United States. Birds would flock to eat its abundant black berries, which hung on the branches well into winter. But the berries contained a chemical that ensured they passed through the bird's digestive systems quickly and completely. This clever, if unpleasant, trick of nature made the birds incredibly effective seed distributors, spreading buckthorn far and wide. The result was a devastating invasion of northern forests. Buckthorn now forms dense thickets that shade out native wildflowers and saplings, and it even releases chemicals into the soil to stunt its competition. Its success is a strange lesson in natural engineering, where a plant's most unappealing secret became its greatest strength. The sweet-tasting killer. Of all the dangers in a garden, none is more frightening than one that looks like a treat. The China berry tree produces clusters of small, yellowish fruits that hang on the branches through winter, but these berries hold a fatal secret. They have an initially sweet taste, a cruel trick of nature that can tempt a curious child into taking a bite. Imagine your child seeing that sweet-looking berry. Would you even know to warn them? Ingesting just a handful can lead to severe illness, seizures, and potentially death. But its sinister nature doesn't end with its poison. The tree is also an aggressive invader, spread by birds who are immune to its toxins. It establishes itself in natural areas and releases chemicals into the soil that inhibit the growth of other plants, creating barren, poisoned ground beneath its canopy. It's a true villain of the plant world, a beautiful killer that poisons not only those who eat it, but the very earth in which it grows. The deceptive Jamaican apple. Imagine a fruit so beautiful it tempts you closer, but holds a secret so lethal the government has forbidden it entirely. This is the story of ackee, the infamous fruit of Jamaica. With its bright red pods that split open to reveal a creamy yellow flesh nestled around glossy black seeds, its appearance is nothing short of alluring. In its native land, it is one half of the national dish, a beloved delicacy celebrated for its savory, nutty flavor when properly prepared. But here in America, it is an outlaw. The reason for its ban is a powerful toxin called hypoglycin, which lurks within the unripe fruit. Consuming it too early can trigger a violent condition known as Jamaican vomiting sickness, which can quickly lead to coma or even death. What makes it so dangerous is its deception. There is no simple way to tell when it's safe. The Food and Drug Administration deemed the risk too great for the public, making one culture's treasure a forbidden poison on American soil. The fruit banned for its ghost. Can a smell be so powerful it becomes illegal? There's a fruit legendary for its flavor, a taste so sublime devotees call it the king of fruits. But its smell is so infamous, so overwhelming, that you can be evicted for even possessing it. This is the story of durian. Those who love it describe its creamy, custard-like flesh as a heavenly experience. Those who hate it compare its odor to rotting onions, sewage, or a gas leak. In fact, the smell is so potent and pervasive, it has triggered building evacuations and is strictly banned on public transportation and in hotels across Southeast Asia. While there is no federal ban on growing durian in the United States, it is forbidden by countless municipal codes and apartment building rules. Its lingering ghost can penetrate concrete walls and ventilation systems, making it a social pariah. Durian teaches us that some things can be forbidden not by law, but by their own inescapable nature. The little apple of death. It has a name. The Spanish called it Árbol de la Muerte, the tree of death. It grows on the tropical shores of America, and it is lethally toxic. This is the manchineel. Every part of it is filled with a caustic, milky sap. Standing under it during a rainstorm can cause your skin to blister. The smoke from its burning wood can cause temporary blindness. And its fruit, which so closely resembles a harmless green apple, is poisonous enough to kill, causing severe swelling of the throat and internal bleeding. Imagine stumbling upon this on a beach vacation. Its fruit, looking just like a wild apple. Would you know you were standing next to the tree of death? In areas where it grows, authorities often mark the trees with a red X or warning signs, a practice that dates back centuries. The manchineel is a living relic, a reminder that some natural things are so dangerous they must be respected and feared. The suburban hedge that ate the South. It was the quintessential symbol of the American suburb, the neatly trimmed privet hedge. Behind these green walls, families had barbecues and lived their lives, never knowing their perfect hedge was planning a silent invasion. How many of us have walked past this exact hedge 1,000 times, never knowing the damage it was causing just out of sight? Once the go-to plant for creating a sense of privacy and order, privet is now banned in many southern states. Its small black berries are irresistible to birds, who spread its seeds from suburban yards into the wild. Once it escapes, privet becomes one of the most destructive invasive plants in southern forests. It forms dense, light-blocking thickets that can reduce native plant diversity by up to 90%. This quiet, unassuming hedge has now overrun more than 1 million acres, a threat that began in the one place we felt safest: our own backyard. We've seen how good intentions can become ecological disasters, and how deadly secrets can hide behind a beautiful flower or a sweet-tasting fruit. From the government's mistakes to nature's most lethal creations, it's clear that our gardens and landscapes hold stories we've long forgotten. The world around us is more complex and sometimes more dangerous than we think. What other forbidden secrets do you think are hiding in our own backyards? Let us know in the comments below. And if you found this journey into the garden's hidden dangers interesting, be sure to subscribe for more stories about the world we think we know.